Hi, I'm Melanie from Parenting High Schoolers, and I'm here today to talk about what do you need to think about when your child is wanting to apply to college. There's a lot of steps. There's a lot of things to consider as you're getting started with this really fun time as a senior. Hi, I'm Melanie again from Parenting High Schoolers, and I am here each week with tips for parenting teens, college and life prep, middle school, whatever affects a teen. I try to think about all those topics that I've had to live through with two boys in their 20s and one son that's still in high school, and share what has worked for us or things that I've read since that might have worked better. Today, how can I help my kid apply for college? Okay, there's a lot of things you can do as a parent. First of all, one thing I did was we had an agreement that as they got things in the mail, that once they looked at things, and I don't know that they give so many paper options anymore, but immediately throw away anything your kid is not interested in. And then my children also had given me the permission to delete in their email anything that came from colleges that were too far away, that we knew were going to be too expensive. If it was one that I wasn't sure about, I left it in their inbox and we talked about it later. But this is a great and super easy way for you to help your teen as they are thinking about applying for college. Okay, this time starts in the summer of their senior year, the summer before. And it's going to go through the fall and even into the spring, depending on your kids' decisions and thought processes. Hopefully you will have already visited schools and done that kind of thing, so they have maybe narrowed down their list. Keep track of all the due dates. And one thing we did, we've done it two ways. I have two boys that have gone into college. One son had a dedicated calendar just for college. So any due dates, any applications, any scholarship, any due date having to do with the school, he color coded each school that he was interested in. There were 6. Each school had their own color. My other son really wasn't going to go. His choices were much more limited because of his grades. For him, we just had a color on his regular school calendar for anything that came up and that occurred, that he needed to take care of. There's lots of ways to do this, but I highly recommend keeping track of all the due dates. Make a plan. So this is with your teen. Be a team. This is something that you really can help them take care of with them. They need to be the leader of the pack when it comes to these decisions, but you can certainly be there to help facilitate, to be there to be a bouncing off ideas, that kind of thing. So there's going to be a lot of planning, a lot of due dates. There are really great people and resources that will help your teen to make a plan. And I recommend this. This was not something that was even, if it was available for my older two boys, we were not aware of it. So in my blog post that I'm going to link to below, I list 3 different resources for career and college planning. So look into them. There's even more that I mentioned, but these are 3 that I know about really well. When you're looking in my blog post at the links, look at each one. A couple have some free options. There are different price points and there are different packages of what you might get in this planning process. But I for sure would look into some of these options, because a lot of times our kids think they know what they want, but they really don't. And then they get to college and it's a big mess. That's not to say that that's your kid, but the better prepared for getting to college and knowing their major and what they want to do after college is a huge piece of this giant puzzle that's called college, or life, really, even bigger than that. I would highly recommend you checking out my blog post, which I'll put a link to below. And by the way, if this video is helping you, please give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Another thing you need to do, and I mentioned this in the calendar section, was to prioritize by due dates. If you don't have something that's due until December, then do the things that are due in October 1st. And to us, that makes sense, but you might point that out to your child as they are getting things done, like writing their essays and turning in their applications. Sometimes they don't see that big picture. So let's help them with that. Okay, fill out the FAFSA. One thing I recommend, even if your child is a freshman, sophomore, or junior, there is a thing called the FAFSA forecaster. And I'll put a link to that below so that you can fill it out before your child is a senior to sort of see what the numbers come out. It's a great tool. We did use it with our second son, and it just gave us an idea we were going to have 2 in college at the same time. So it kind of helped us see what the numbers were going to be. But for sure, October 1st is when you can start filling out the FAFSA. And you don't have to do it on the 1st, but I recommend you doing it early in October because schools assign monies for their tiered scholarship packages from the FAFSA. So even if you're not going to qualify, but my oldest son still got tons of scholarship money based on the information that was in the FAFSA. Okay, ACT and SAT. Find out which test the school that your son or daughter wants to go to, and that's the one they need to focus on. Now, if they are looking at 2 different schools and they have 2 different qualification tests, then I guess you're stuck doing them both. But try to have them narrow it down so that they know which is more important to them. Which school do they really love the most? And hopefully you can narrow it down to 1 test. Taking the test is super important, and they can take it more than once, way more than once. It's for $50, it's worth it to get a better score because for every point that you gain, that's the possibility of more money from the school. Visit the campus. If you guys have not visited campus yet, I recommend you guys doing that as soon as possible. I know at our high school, they give you like 8 days to visit campuses. So utilize those, check into that, make sure if that's something your school does. Write essays. I would suggest doing this the summer before the senior year. Write some essays that are general. 1, like, what are my hopes and goals for my life? Where do I see myself in 10 years? 1 is, how can I save the environment? What are simple steps that I could take? 1 might be, don't text and drive. What does that mean to you? There are a number of generic essays that your student could write, and I suggest doing 3 or 4 that then they could tweak to use for other situations. And you can reuse the same essay over and over and over again, as long as it's specific to what is being asked. They recommend writing, a couple of essays ahead of time. Get letters of rec. This is a huge thing. The kids need to be making relationships and, fostering those with their teachers, their coaches, their minister, so that when it's time to get a letter of recommendation for a scholarship or a college application, those are in the bag. They can just ask. Your child needs to keep a resume. They need to update it every semester with their GPA, any sports or clubs that they're in, any leadership positions, any awards they may have received, all of it every semester. If you just keep it, even just keep it to Google Doc, and you could transfer it to a resume when it's time, but just keep track of all of that or you guys will forget. I promise. With my oldest son, we didn't do this until like the end of his junior year. And then we were like, oh my gosh, it's only been 3 years, but we can't remember anything. So start now. If your child has narrowed down their college choices, the 2 of you visit those websites of the colleges, open up all the tabs, they'll have a map, what is the school close to? What are the social options at the school? How big is the school? You want to know as much information about each school as possible so that your child is making a good decision. At the bottom of my blog post that I'll link to, there are 4 books that will really help in this both scholarship search and like getting information about colleges. A great thing or a great tool to use is my book called College Bound, The Ultimate List of Conversations to Help Your Teen Through High School. This gives you all kinds of ideas about the conversations that you need to have to start this whole process. And I recommend that if you have any younger kids that you start younger. But if you guys are in the junior or senior year, read it, do the things now, and good luck with whatever your child decides to do. And just remember that even if college is not the choice, they're going to need a resume and a good GPA to get a job, to go into the military, all those things. So that is something that they need to be thinking about for sure. Have a great day.